Welcome part 2. This is a very sensitive subject to me, and I hope that y'all will have the patience and the understanding of how I'm speaking in this video. Let's just get straight into it because y'all know how I feel about intros.
Want to hear another Missouri story? This story is going to take us to one of the creepiest places I think I've ever looked into. A place called Zombie Road. It's located in Wildwood outside of St. Louis, and the actual name of the road is Rock Hollow Trail. So its original name was the Lawler Ford Road. This road is said to be one of the most haunted roads, not just in Missouri, not just in America, but in the world. The road was first constructed just before the Civil War in 1860 and is allegedly built over one of the largest Native American burial grounds in the country. It's 2.3 miles long and has 13 bridges. I can't find anything specific about the bridges, like a specific story related to them, but there's got to be a significance to 13 bridges. So if someone knows, tell me. The road won't fit a car and is only open for pedestrians and bicyclists. The road opens a half hour before sunrise and closes a half hour after sunset. And apparently has a pretty strict no trespassing rule after dark, because there is a $1,000 fine if they catch you there after dark. The stories of what happens here are crazy. There's a million stories of ghosts of indigenous people, of Confederate soldiers, and of ghosts of children, industrial workers. It's also said to be absolutely full of shadow people. And a documentary called Children of the Grave, made in 2007 by the Booth brothers, supposedly caught footage of a shadow nest of children on camera. I think they're also the ones that supposedly caught this shot where you can see the shadow people in the trees. I'm not even sure I'm allowed to use that picture, so don't tell. People have also reported feelings of being watched, of odd noises, and even hearing a woman scream in the middle of the day. One of the ghosts that is supposedly haunting this area is that of Della Hamilton McCulley, the wife of a judge who was hit by a train here in 1876. Some say she is the reason that Zombie Road earned its name, because of the way she died, quote, with injuries so gruesome the remains were like a zombie. And before Wildwood was Wildwood, it was Glencoe, a thriving resort community. But with the decline of railroad travel, the town also declined. So along the road, there are many abandoned houses and old shacks. These buildings are said to be very active with spirits, like the ghost of an old woman who screams at people walking down the road. But of course, when they go look for whoever just yelled at them, there's nobody there. There's also the legend of the zombie killer. It says that somewhere in the 1950s, a crazed man escaped a mental hospital and disappeared somewhere down the road and began living in one of the old shacks, only coming out to murder some teen couples or young lovers looking for a place to be alone. And after he died, continued to haunt the area as a serial killer zombie. There's also said to be dark occult rituals that have taken place in the area, and there have been a high number of eerie and odd accidents, along with a high number of murders and suicides. So, my Missouri friends, have you taken a walk down Zombie Road? I want to know.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I need a second. Do y'all remember that Satanist video that I did last month, where he was talking about how he was in deep with the Satanism and the occult, and you know, they would meet up in these big world organizations and talk about the different stuff that's happening energetically around and how they can take over the area energetically and create darkness over the area. And people who prayed, or pastors, or people who are very powerful in light, they couldn't go in that area because of the spiritual pressure. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Certain areas of this country, if you think about the ley lines, if you don't know what that is, look that up. How energy travels and the power points that is in this country, they keep it at a certain vibration. So that is the reason why certain areas and certain parts and certain cities just be, you can't understand the people there, because it sounds like they're under a spell. It's like there's something wrong to where there's just darkness there. There's a low vibration there. People are not happy. People are, each other and stuff like that. And in certain areas like this is what I'm talking about, especially because I grew up in Missouri. I'm from St. Louis. I know the energy there, the disrespect over our families' bodies and what they have done over these lands, and why it is such a heavy negative pressure there, and they keep it that way. They keep it that way for a reason. Let's just keep going. Just keep going.
This is the most haunted theme park in America, Lake Shawnee in West Virginia. This place is haunted by thousands of ghosts. So Lake Shawnee is a massive abandoned amusement park with a very dark and very disturbing past. Long before the amusement park was ever constructed, a tragedy already occurred on the land. You see, in 1775, a settler named Mitchell Clay made his claim right there on that property. Only a few years later, though, 2 of his children were murdered by indigenous people.
Okay, so you know how apparently we already watched this in the last video and we know what happened. And that's what I was trying to say. I was like, they're trying to cover it up and make it seem like that our family was just savage. But no, he made his claim on land that their ancestors were buried underneath. Made his claim. And if you know what that means, claim, like he claimed the land, like that's his, and it's not. Like, what did you expect? What did you think was going to happen of you taking over somebody's land where their ancestors are buried and their power is there? You put your family in danger for putting them there, for claiming the land and building a house and being disrespectful.
A while later, they felt something brush against their leg under the water, and it was their child's body. But why could this place be so cursed, you ask?
Wait a minute, bro. Go back. Go back.
Obviously, there was a drowning or two in this lake, and over here in this lake, I heard a story from the owner when I visited that a child was pulled under the water, supposedly by some sort of phantom force. After the child went under the water, the parents searched, they couldn't find their child, but eventually, a while later, they felt something brush against their leg under the water, and it was their child's body. But why could this place be so cursed, you ask? Well, right next to the property is a mass grave for indigenous peoples where over 3,000 bodies are suspected to be buried. I'm talking about the parks right here, and just over here is where this huge burial plot is. And people think that obviously if they were all buried right there, some of those bodies may have moved in this direction. Over the years, people have experienced all sorts of paranormal activity here, the most terrifying kind of all. People have seen children sliding down the slides, riding the rides. People have seen figures riding the old Ferris wheel, waving at them, shadow figures that disappear. People have heard the sounds of giggling, heard children's voices, adult voices, and people have even seen eerie creatures and other shadow forms in these woods that surround the park. There's even more history that I'm missing out on here, but if you want to watch the full documentary that I shot there where we stayed overnight, just head to my YouTube channel. It was one.
Why do people do that? Why? Why do people... Let's move on. Now remember how I talked about in the last video how they disrespect the energy and they cut off the energy of our family to weaken them. This is the reason why the stories, the memories, the power to be able to defeat them, the war was like they knew that they couldn't fight the war physically. They had to do it spiritually first. It's all technology. Literally, they sent criminals to the new world to die. They didn't send them here to build a new world. No, they sent them here to die. These were criminals that got kicked out of Europe who came here.
This is Grave Creek Mound, the oldest Indian burial ground in America. Only 1,000 feet away sits the old West Virginia State Penitentiary. Favors a castle, right? People in that area know that castle and those mounds were built together. Ancient artifacts were found there, with ancient writing predicting the stars and astrology. This was built by the Adena tribe. Look at them. We know what kind of people they were. Now ask yourself, why would you build a large jail right outside of a large indigenous Indian mound? Because they didn't build it. Ancient nobility priests were buried at the bottom of that mound, and they also lived in that castle. We know.
The more I see these mounds, the more I have a feeling that our family used to go on top of the mounds and meditate there and to be able to talk to their ancestors, to be able to commune with them, sitting on top of that where they were there. Like, you know how when you go to the cemetery, you're able to, you talk to the person that you loved. I feel like that was like a real spiritual place for them to be able to connect and get guidance and get answers and power that they needed to move forward with the bloodline. And yeah, every time I keep looking at these mounds, it's like some type of familiar feeling of just sitting on top of there and having a conversation with your ancestors, being able to feel them and feel their energy. And the disrespect is still live, guys.
So personally, I would be pissed if I bought a $500,000 house in a waterfront development only to discover it was built on top of a 3,000-year-old Indian burial ground. But that is exactly what is happening to a good handful of homeowners in the Bridgeview subdivision in Cedar Point in North Carolina. Essentially what has happened is that there are about 36 houses that have been built in this neighborhood and sold, and people are already living there. And that construction workers, while constructing subsequent houses, discovered some artifacts that are of historical significance that could potentially be indicative of burial grounds on this plot of land. So the homeowners that have already purchased in this neighborhood were none the wiser when they bought. Now there's some speculation about whether or not the developer had an inkling that something like this may come up. And I was able to find one article that was indicative of the fact that they had already spent some money trying to disprove the fact that there was any historical significance to this land plot and weren't able to find anything definitive. Now, this particular issue with the Bridgeview subdivision has not been the focus of the headlines revolving this issue over the past couple of weeks. The focus is the introduction of House Bill 385, which will essentially reduce the amount of regulation required to discover archaeological sites and subsequently protect them from development. Now, the argument in proposal of this piece of legislation is that housing costs already are unaffordable. Development costs are already very expensive, and the more regulation that is involved in the process of development, the more expensive housing becomes. Now, obviously, the counter argument to that is that these are sites of historical significance that should be appropriately investigated and protected. Even still, this bill will not fix the issue with the Bridgeview subdivision because it will only apply to new permits that are being issued, not existing permits. So as of right this second, according to these articles, construction within that Bridgeview development is on pause indefinitely.
Do y'all remember the flooding and the earthquaking that happened in North Carolina? In the same space where they disrespected the indigenous burial ground? This is not a game. This is not a joke. It's very sad that people were losing their homes, and anybody who had lost their lives, I hope that they rest in peace and the families can find some peace and healing afterwards. But okay, that's all I gotta say. That's all I really have today for the sacred lands of our indigenous family that has been disrespected and is either haunted or there are natural events that is happening due to those situations. I hope that y'all have a good rest of y'all day, and so glad and so thankful that you are here getting educated, and I hope to see you on another video. I'm trying to do more videos like this month, and I love y'all. I hope y'all continue to support me, and I'll see y'all in the next video.